right now, and so we should be live 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 right now, and so we should be live. All right, folks, let's try that again. All right, folks, let's try that again.
There we go.
All right, folks, let's try that again.
There we go.
All right, folks, let's try that again.
There we go.
All right, folks, let's try that again.
There we go.
All right, folks, let's try the volume is way up. All right, there we go. Folks, let's turn the volume.
That's funny. Finally got it to work out. That's funny. Yeah, finally got technology.
Yeah, this has got me learning about levels, like audio levels too. This has got me learning. About
You just gotta dive into it.
Yeah. It's been a while since I taught myself something new. It's been one of the very few upsides of like being quarantined with a bunch of extra free time.
Oh yeah, I've been playing. I call it real life Stardew Valley.
I don't get that reference.
Stardew Valley is a game where you're giving your grandfather's farm, and you just gotta take care of it.
Oh yeah.
So in the day, you gotta like wake up, like take care of chickens. You gotta feed the chickens. You gotta, go mining. And so I'm outside my house. Like, all right, so I gotta do this path here. I got water problems here. I gotta drain this thing over here. And I just had a hack with my backyard just today, and I was like, all right, I need a path to my barn. So I gotta just cut through the weeds and get to the barn because it's bad.
That's funny.
And luckily some animals started my compost pile, I think.
There you go.
Because it dug a hole in my backyard. I'm like, there's like a 2-foot hole in the middle of my yard. I'm like, god damn it. I think it's the local pit bull, because I've seen it in my backyard before. So I think he just digs down in there and like stays chill. When it gets super hot during the summer. Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah, I was gonna show you these real quick.
That's cool.
Oh yeah. Excuse me. So I'm doing another Amanda pin set.
Nice.
So with Jeremy, we're doing a Mandalorian theme.
Nice.
So these are our color options.
Okay.
So those are like the two, we call them OGs.
Okay.
So those are like the two, like that's the one that there's like a ton of, and then you have your rares. So you've got black on gold. So you've got you do this bloodshot version. My favorite, call it the light side. That one I was still playing with, and then yeah, we did a Boba Fett one too, which he did actually. Props to Jeremy for doing that. And I was like, oh, that's slick.
He's good at that stuff.
He is. It's funny because we're both very outspoken about what we like. So working together at first was fun, like filling each other out and being like, no, I want this, but we should do it this way. I've learned to pretty much just kind of trust his opinion on this stuff. Yep.
That's what it takes.
Because he's deep into the pin world, and I'm not. Like, I'm deep into the art world. So he kind of knows what sells and what people want to see.
Yep. It's very, like, you just gotta understand how to connect with certain people.
He's pretty good at it. And, he's got a completely different market, because most of the stuff I sell, I just do online. But he's like at all these pin conventions, which has changed now, but, I'm sure they'll hopefully come back eventually.
I say I heard somewhere online, it's like, let's reset it. It's, now it's after, it's CA or AC after Corona.
Fuck yeah. I mean, it'll be that way. It's changing a lot of stuff.
Everything's shifting and changing.
So what are you working on again?
It's a piece for the various corks zine. Jonathan did the pencils and the inks for the figure, and I just thought it'd be fun to take a crack at the background.
Oh, nice.
It's like swampy. So I'm just trying to get some time into that. Because I've been lucky to be able to work from home, but which is nice. I don't miss the drive. Which is super nice.
Oh yeah, fuck that drive.
It took me a minute to figure out how to work from home again, because the situation is different than I was last time.
Oh yeah, way different.
That's not bad. I've gotten used to it. I can dig it again. But unfortunately, it's all e-commerce, so everybody's pivoting super quickly over like. We need work from home today. So make all the work from home emails. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that's kind of, I've noticed that's been the main difference between people that are suddenly working from home is there's like a whole set of subsection. There's a whole subsection of people that like they already worked from home like 1 or 2 days a week, and their company was a little flexible, and they were like ready to hit the ground running. And then you have all these companies that were against it, and they're like, oh shit, we have to be able to do this tomorrow.
Yep. Literally, what happened to? I think there was conversations over the course of like maybe a week, and then my ITE guy got, no notice. I think he got told at the end of the day, and then the next day he was setting up laptops that someone just bought.
Holy shit!
Because they ended up wanting to do a stress test on Monday, and then so that was the big push. Like, all right, everybody go home. A stress test on Monday, and then on Sunday I was like, nope, stay home for the whole week.
Wow.
And then now we're here until the end of May.
That's crazy, dude. Hold on one second. I have an idea.
Idea.
Yeah. I'm gonna set up a shot. I need to get a screen capture of it. You'll see why when I tag you in a minute.
Oh yeah. They'll market this.
Always.
Being a one-person team gets difficult.
Telling me. Even like a two. I think probably a 3 it might get easier.
Yeah. I think it depends, but like, I just gotta take a crack at it a little bit at a time. That's been my philosophy.
Yep. I just make lists.
Just gonna work through it 1 hour at a time.
Let's see if this works.
Make it work.
I really like having 2 monitors at the moment because holy shit, all this stuff takes up a lot of real estate.
I miss it. I'm down to a laptop for work.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, I've got an extra monitor.
I need room. I'm sitting on my recliner.
Damn.
Yeah, I still got the storage. I gotta clear out some space in the studio. We're thinking about setting up space in the studio to set up Ruby's Anime Yankee booth and just live stream like the Yankee cons out of it.
That'd be cool.
Like at this point, might as well, right?
I've seen a lot of people doing that. They're just, it's basically like variety show hour with all your favorite artists.
It's key to our part of key to our success to finding a new audience. That's being at a con is the foot traffic is super important.
It is. Like, I mean, even me, you know, I joke about how much of a hermit I am and all this stuff, but like, cons were a lot of my socializing time because like you get to see everybody at once, you get to interact with like a couple hundred people at least. Like tops off my tank.
That's like I'm gonna smoke the whole pack.
Yeah,
the whole carton.
Yeah, I just smoked the whole carton and I'll see you guys in 6 months. Like, it's all good. But now, you know, like we were talking about earlier, it's like, oh, now that I can't go outside, that's like all I want to do. Like, I want to work out outside, I want to walk the dog, I want to go for drives. I want to go hiking. Like, I want to go hiking so bad. And I can't really go hiking here because A, the trails are all flat, but also like people aren't taking it seriously, so everyone's out and about with no masks, no gloves, you know. Just breathing all over each other.
Everywhere I've been, everybody's staying pretty far away from each other. Everybody's wiping stuff down. I carry around a small bottle of hand sanitizer. Mm-hmm. And so my idea is every time I leave my car, I'm contaminated. So
yeah, we treat it the same way.
I do whatever I need to come back, and then I hand sanitize at least before I get in the car. Then when I get home, I take off my clothes and jump in the shower.
Yep. That's what I did today after I went to the pharmacy. And like we disinfect everything as it comes into the house. Just like it seems so overdone, but at the same time, like it's not worth the risk yet.
It's aliens.
Yeah, like I joked today that someone was like this apocalypse sucks. Like I wanted zombies, and I commented what I keep telling Lars, and it's like we're still in the opening credits montage of whatever is going on, because like it's just now spread worldwide. It's just now starting to really ramp up here.
Yeah, I just hope there's not a third act, or at least no second act, because you ever played the Play game?
Yep.
On the iPhone?
Yep.
Late game patience. Like new things you don't discover until the 6-month mark. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I feel that. Like, yeah, there's always that fear.
It's same thing a lot of things, like even medicine. It's like, okay, cool, it works right now, but what happens in 6 months? What happens in 5 years? What happens in 10 years? We don't know. It's like head trauma in MMA. MMA is just too new.
Sneaks up on you.
Yeah, boxing's been around since like the 20s. And so we have a long history of seeing people get hit and then what happens to them after, 30 years, 40 years, because we have that data. We see people like that. But with this stuff, like, who knows what's going to happen? Because I heard people are getting reinfected, right afterwards. So I was like, late game. And you're into the idea that it's just animals.
Yeah, I don't really buy the conspiracy theories on this one. And we talked about this off stream, but one, because they pretty much tracked where it's come from, what animals it's come through and that kind of thing. But also, it's not like viruses aren't complicated. Like they don't have long, complicated gene sequences, and it's already been gene sequenced.
Yeah.
And everything, and that's public. Like you can go download it and look at it if you want to. And all the gene sequencing points to it just being a really tough coronavirus, just a really tough, naturally occurring.
It happens, right?
Yeah, cold. I mean, it's the same family that colds are in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because naturally you get a Brock Lesnar going. Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
Naturally, he's also massive.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we were talking about, that happens because it's in a reservoir host, and we've never experienced it, so we have absolutely no antibodies for it. So it just does whatever it wants, and our immune systems can't do anything about it.
Pick up with it at all.
Yeah, whereas like bats, bats don't even get symptoms; they're just carriers.
Oh, really?
I don't even know where to start on this thing. All right.
That's cool.
Yeah, we're about an hour in. I'm finally in the zone. That seems about par for the course for me.
I'll have to dip out around midnight.
Cool, no worries.
I don't know how I do it. I gotta be in the office at 7 a.m.
Like physically or just?
When I had to be in the office at 7 a.m. started.
You're still just kind of, your body will take forever to adjust to that.
Yeah, it took a while, and then, but I get up at 3:30. Super nice.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm the opposite. I get going about the time you get off, so about 3 o'clock.
Yeah, right on.
Is when I start working lately.
That's where I go naturally, so it's a fight to not go there.
Just embrace it, Lun. Embrace it.
Just takes discipline. Well, it's just day job stuff. Like, you gotta be around when they're around.
No, I get it, yeah.
Especially with ecom, because you gotta pivot. Right now, my boss is like, I need this email 2 hours ago.
Yeah, thankfully all my most of my clients they know my schedule.
Yeah, you have like a due day. It's like, I'm done with this in like next week.
Yeah, and most of my stuff is booked in days too now. It's like I don't really do like, I'll work on your project for an hour. No, it's like you need a day at least.
Yeah, to get this, because especially at the speed you're looking for. Like for me, I have to do a gang level emails, so I can't take on sudden work because then the other work stuff.
Yeah, well, I can't right now either, which is weird. Like I booked up a whole bunch of work right at the beginning of the year, and I got really stressed about it because I was like, oh, these projects are like 6-month long projects and I can't do anything else, and now I'm so glad I have them.
Oh yeah, for real, I can see that.
I wish I could actually see what you're working on. I wish I could actually see.
Oh yeah, we'll have to figure that out someday. We can do all this work. Now we have this to work.
Yeah, you can probably share your screen somehow, and we can probably get it into OBS.
OBS, yeah. There's a way. But step one, we got this to work.
Yeah, no. It's funny because I'm like an old man struggling with technology now. Is 5G terrestrial? Is it human made? Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a buddy that he made a good point in a post, and he was like, 5G isn't shit. He was like, your average military antenna on your average battleship will like fry a bird like popcorn.
Okay.
And I don't personally know if that's true, but I believe him.
The example I always use is apparently the military has a radar or something that can spot people via their heartbeats.
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
That seems plausible. Yeah.
It's like right on the cusp of like, I kind of see that happening. And that's what they let leak. So who knows what they don't.
Oh yeah, no. If they let it leak, it's probably they're probably a few versions ahead at least.
I was digging into. I was watching the Bob Lazar podcast with Rogan. That was kind of cool.
Oh, he's full of shit though.
You think?
Yeah, he's such a liar, dude.
Gotcha.
I have opinions about Bob Lazar. He because he's been around since I was a kid. You know, he's like yeah, and like his story's good until you start asking him questions that he hasn't rehearsed, and then he like suddenly gets headaches and doesn't want to talk about it, and I just don't buy it.
Gotcha.
Like he strikes me as one of those guys that like he knows too much. If it like he would never like they would never let one dude know that much, and like his background is unbelievable.
So is any of it? Because I heard some of it works out, like some of it panned out to be.
Yes, yeah, and I think I don't know if I'm speaking right. I'm speaking out of turn, but like I think something about like an element that he said we discovered ended up being real. But
yeah, that's what I came across in the conversation I heard.
I don't know.
Okay.
I was actually a little upset with that podcast because I was like, come on, Joe, like ask him the tough questions. You're just letting him say whatever he wants, and then when you ask him something, he says he's got a headache and quits talking.
I think a lot of times it's just a platform for someone to speak, which some people don't like the guests he has on, but he gets a lot of people. So he got he had Bernie on, didn't he?
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. He had a lot of the candidates on.
Yeah. Like to me, I find just any podcast, to be quite honest, like unscripted, live YouTube feeds. Like, okay, let's see you talk. Let's see you answer some questions.
And he said that much, I think, that he's not there to. Like sometimes he's not there to be a mediator. He's just there to listen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like listening, I want to like flat Earth. Like why? I need to know what's going through the brain process to make this work. But apparently, flat Earth has been around forever. Same thing as like anti-vax. Ever since the word vaccine came out.
Yeah, but flat Earth hasn't been around forever. Well, I mean, we went from flat Earth to round Earth, and then back to flat Earth. Like no one. Like I don't think 500 years ago anyone thought the Earth was flat.
I think so. I think there's always a subset. There's always a conspiracy tinfoil hat before tinfoil hat was a thing. Where someone's like, oh, the church is lying to us.
That's fair. I don't know. Because even the Catholic Church came out, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and was like, yeah, it's round. We know it's round.
Yeah, so Galileo, for the longest time, they were like, oh, this guy's full of shit.
Yeah.
And it took forever.
And then suddenly one day, oh no, we got it. Shout out to Jack in the chat room. I don't know who you are, but you just created your account. What's up?
There you go.
He says, oh, hello, gentlemen. It's probably someone we know with a weird name that we don't recognize.
True that.
I feel like someone brought up the nostalgia that this whole situation has created for when they used to sit on AIM back in the day, and they mentioned the program Trillion, and I had a flashback had a flashback to like being on DeviantArt all the time, talking on Trillion and AIM with all your accounts connected.
Yeah. What did I use before Trillion? Pigeon? Is that before or after?
Oh, I don't know, but I used Pigeon too. I remember Pigeon. Because it started with just like AIM. It was just like AOL chat.
Yeah. And IRC.
See, I never got on IRC. I don't know why, but I didn't.
On it very briefly. I understood kind of how it works, but I never got into a community.
Gotcha. Yeah, honestly, it's kind of like Reddit for me. It's just I never got into it.
Oh, right on. I've been into it because I found decent little subsets that I can dive into for quite a bit. So it's my thing.
That's kind of cool.
What
do y'all use for work again?
Teams.
Oh, just okay.
Which used to be Skype for Business, I think.
Yep. Yeah, because Microsoft owns Skype now. Yeah, this is kind of fun just talking and chatting.
Yeah, for real. It's been weird.
Yeah, if someone's watching this or watching it back later and you want to hang out and chat, just give me a shout on a social media platform.
The Jack is Jessica.
Yeah, that's my friend Jessica from back in my what would you call it? Playing in like a dirty metal band on the east side of Plano days.
Those days.
Those days.
That's funny. I remember I ran into somebody who used to live in Denton in college as well. And she went up to me and said, yeah, I did a kind of a scandalous lingerie photo shoot in the graveyard. And I was like, I was in Denton. Who hasn't? Like, that's just...
Yeah, that's like the thing you do, right?
That's just being in Denton.
It's funny when you like get a little more perspective and you realize you're not as edgy as you thought you were, but in a good way.
Because who's like Gigi Allen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gigi Allen. You know what I mean?
I can tell you who Gigi Allen is. That's a whole other guy. I think I might get censored on Twitch for that one.
Oh, probably. Like Alan Maplethorpe and all those guys are like. I only knew a couple of the hardcore radicals. But at that point, it's like, oh, I guess everything. You look at that, it's like everything else is everything.
Yeah.
Let's see after that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, you need to commit. Like, that guy commits. It's like, you're right, that guy does commit. They're all going through the same thing.
Yeah. It's nice though, knowing you're not as weird as you thought you were.
I think it's that. I remember an Eddie Izzard joke talking about growing up as British, and it's like, I want to be an astronaut. And he's like, hang on, you're British, tone it down a bit. I think in America we used to have this, like, you can be anything you want.
Oh yeah, it's that myth of the American. It's like our American dream, right? Like you start off as nothing and end up as anything.
And I love there's a quote from Waking Life where the girl talks about everybody believes they were Cleopatra.
Yep.
But you're just if you're reborn, you're probably just a farmer.
Probably. Well,
it's just a normal everyday person.
I mean, statistically, you're probably a farmer a lot.
That's what we are. So more recently, I feel like a lone Roman farmer on my farm doing my thing. I just see the Capitol burning.
Yep.
Miles and miles away. I'm like, well, I guess the new bosses are in town. They'll get to be a boss.
I think a lot of us feel that way.
Yeah. That drive to be like super special, I think, makes people feel, what's the word, like unsatisfied with their life because they feel like I have a grand scheme in my life, like I'm not fulfilling. It's like, no, you're fulfilling exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Like there have been so many people. The chances that you were like someone famous or someone like historically important are pretty low.
Yeah, nowadays, look at it. There's even in being known in Dallas. There's what, a couple million people here.
Yep.
There's only a handful of people that everybody knows.
I kind of like that though. There's like the new thing is to like is for there just it's kind of like with music where there's just all kinds of little separate subgenres that you might have never heard of or know anything about, but they're just as like vibrant.
If this coronavirus proves to companies that you can do remote and keep the same level of productivity, the city may go away. There's no reason to live this close to the city.
See, I've known this. I've known that for 10 years though.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can make it work.
You have older, or at least older thinking people in charge now. Like they're the bosses. Because they've been there for 50 years. They would be our CEOs. They would be our hot supervisors. And for them, working from home is a foreign concept. Because if you think about it, from the bosses I've had over the years, they watch computers become what it is now. I kind of saw it, and I'm like only 30 something. You know what I mean? So everybody older than me saw no computers at all to now. But there's people like Ethan's age who they've always known computers.
Yeah, they're just a part of their lives. Like, I didn't get my first computer until I was, my first real computer until I was 16. We had like an old IBM thing that you had to boot up on like 3 1/4 inch or 4-inch discs. Like you couldn't do anything but like type on it.
I had a Xerox machine.
My grandmother had all kinds of cool toys. She had money.
Oh, right on. I had a Xerox computer.
Oh wow. Oh okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like a copy machine.
That's because my dad used to work at Xerox or something like that. And it was essentially an Apple II with the green screen, with the black with the green text and the big disk drive.
Yeah.
And ASCII, but it was made by Xerox.
Oh wow! So that was before Microsoft ripped off the Xerox interface. Yeah.
Or maybe early prototype of it. But yeah, we had it at home. I remember. It's all text-based games, ASCII games.
Choose your own adventure stuff.
For the most part.
Yeah, my grandmother had she had like one of the first computerized word processors. She was a painter, so she liked crafty shit. Yeah, and so she had like an actual copy machine.
Right on.
Yeah, and I remember I used to take the old, like that first awesome Marvel trading card set, and I would like blow them up with the copy machine and then like trace them, and then like ink that, trying to like learn how to draw like Jim Lee and Arthur Adams. Yeah, that shows my age too. Like, and then I got my first real computer when I was 16, like that ran Windows.
Oh, right on.
And I immediately pissed off my parents because I was like, okay, so I need more RAM. I need a drawing program. Oh, and P.S. I need a $600 scanner. And to their credit, to their credit, they were like, okay.
That's cool.
No, they
I
didn't.
run across a couple of those people when I sell art supplies. Every once in a while, most of them actually, the parents will do what they can for the kids, or art especially.
Yeah,
There's been a handful where I see parents like, no, you don't have time for that.
That's sad.
Yeah, but they look to be at an age where they're interested in anything new, for the most part. And so the parents are like, yeah, I know you'll dig into this for like half a week and then you're onto something else.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I can kind of see that.
I think mine did it just because it was always art. It was like, cause they'd be like, why the hell do you need a $600 scanner? We just bought you like a $1,000 computer. And I was like, well, that's so that I can take all these drawings, scan them in, and then I have them on the computer.
Yeah.
I remember that specifically. I had to like really convince them to do that. And they were like, all right, that's what you want.
That's nice.
Like if that's what you need, because like you know I was never into sports. I wanted to I wanted to draw since like evidently I was drawing before I was forming memories because I never made a decision to do it. I just always did it, and you'd think I'd be better at it by now. But yeah, just so like you know, what do you want for your birthday? Art supplies. What do you want for Christmas? Art supplies. It just never changed.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, I think you know I had really great parents, and I think they knew that I was serious enough that I might actually be able to pull it off. And then I started to, and it was really cool to see them be like, that's why we did it.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, yeah, you can spot it early, and then see where their drive was. Like, I saw a kid who was really good. She's like 12 or 14 or something like that. And I asked her, is art a hobby or a career? And she said, I think it's a hobby. I want to be a marine biologist. I said, oh, cool. Go do your marine biology and use your art for your presentations and your papers, you know, that kind of stuff when you present yourself professionally. And just draw everything. So just keep doing what you're doing. Like, okay, cool. And just draw everything. And that's where her path was. And the other kids like, I want to be an animator. I want to do this. I want to get like, okay, cool. So you know, let's take you down this pathway.
Yeah, I think just overall art skills are good to have anyway too. Like not enough people like write stuff out, let alone draw stuff.
I remember my English teacher said when he's on the airplane he'll run into somebody who was like, oh, you're an English teacher. Like, I write poetry. It's like, hey, do you have a look? And they'll look at it. And he says, some of them are good, some are great, but I always tell them, just keep doing it. Because if it makes them happy, they don't have to turn it into a career. It's something they do on the side.
Yeah, that's your hobby now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's your hobby now.
Like, my hobby has suddenly become video.
Yeah.
Like, I can't... You know, I draw all the time. Like, I have deadlines all the time, and like design work is kind of the same vein. And so it's like, oh, when I get a free minute, I want to like fuck around with Premiere or like stream something.
Gotten back into video games.
Oh,
I've
thought about it.
I was playing Civilization again for quite a while, and then I just downloaded a new one. I forget what it was called, but it's essentially Dungeon Keeper. Do you ever play Dungeon Keeper?
I don't think I did.
Okay, there's only like one, I believe, and then the company folded, so there's never more, and so a new company kind of made like a spiritual successor. So
okay, cool.
The mechanics are very similar.
Okay, cool.
But you just play a dungeon keeper, and you build a dungeon. Like, here's where they eat. Here's where they gamble. Here's where they torture the good guys. Here's where we raise hell creatures. Here's where we train the hell creatures. And then you just defend your keep, depending on the mission. But yeah, you're a dungeon keeper.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about getting into this. Next time, get the Spider-Man game that looks fun.
I was always into shooters, so I've thought about getting back into like Modern Warfare or something. But honestly, I just don't have the time.
Do you not want to dig into Doom?
That's on the list too.
Oh my god.
That's on the list too. That's on the list too. Oh my god.
Because, yeah, that's one of the ones that got recommended to me when I asked. They were like, oh yeah, there's a Doom that came out, I guess a couple of years ago. They were like, you need to do that. I think it was Doom 3, I'm not sure.
There's a brand new one that came out like a month ago.
Oh, maybe that's the one they were talking about.
Yeah, because the funny part was it had the same release date as Animal Crossing.
Oh yeah, no, I remember reading about that. I don't know why that slipped my mind. Yeah, that'd be a good one too. Yeah, I'm on Twitch, but I don't game. It's kind of weird.
I think I looked at it and I started getting back into it more just to be current on experiences and storytelling. And because a lot of the games now, the storytelling has to be like either open world or you're kind of linear, but it's, you know, the player is very involved, so you have to like take that into consideration and how you guide the player through these certain experiences. Like the Batman game, especially I think Arkham Knight was really good about using the camera angle of the game to tell a story.
I remember I had a friend that played that a lot. Yeah, the camera. What do you call it? The camera system was really good.
They use it to tell stories, like to have pivotal stories. I was like, oh, cool, this is neat. This is how you do it. I mean, me and Lagaki were talking about that, like how the comic books. Like Marvel and DC, like they look at each other as competing, but they're not really.
Yeah.
Because you're competing, you're entertainment, and so you're competing with video games, you're competing with television, you're competing with phone games. Like it's all that extra, that game time, that recreation, and you're competing with everything.
Man, I love comics, but they're so behind when it comes to like marketing and getting the product out to like new readers.
American comics.
Yeah, to be fair, American comics.
Like, like, oh my God, One Piece is blowing up. It's huge.
I don't even know what that is.
A pirate manga. It's been running for. It's the new Dragon Ball Z. It runs forever. I think Dragon Ball Z is still running. Yeah, it's a massive franchise.
That's the one thing I didn't get into was manga. Like I came from such a small town, it was already weird that I was into comics. And
finding it is probably hard because you're a little older than me, right?
Yeah, a little bit. And I'll never forget. So my first entrance into anything Japanese was one of my best friends in high school had an older brother who was a little weird, but super sweet, right? Like good guy, super sweet, but like had like a 2-foot mullet and like lots of swords and played like D&D at the time, which I didn't know what D&D was.
Some mall ninja shit.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, you like art? Oh, you like comics? Here," and he gave me like 3 VHS tapes, and 2 of them were like random episodes of stuff, I think, and then the third one was Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, there you go.
And I watched Ghost in the Shell and was just like, wow. And then I went through like a Masamune Shiro phase.
Everyone did.
Yeah.
It was super common.
But then by the time it was mainstream here, honestly, I was already kind of not reading as many comics.
There's so many comics. I was just talking about that with Michael. It's like, my favorite book is about a board game. It's about a kid learning how to play the board game from a ghost that's haunting the board. Like, this is awesome. Because the other thing is, it fucking ends. Like, there's an ending.
Yeah, I need stories that end, for sure.
Like, and the great part is the artist. This person got it down to a point where you can see the kids grow up from being middle school to high school.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Shit, like the face changes, they get taller, they mature. It's like, wow, this is cool.
And they have American comics where like every face is the same.
I think it's David Hopkins. He's like, how come everybody has the same nose?
Jim Lee knows.
No, it's like in whoever draws it, there's not a lot of variety in nose. Everyone draws the same nose for all the characters.
It's funny because American comics now have like a house style, and I don't think they realize it.
Yeah, as a industry as a whole.
Yeah, and like it's funny too because I get it because I had my favorites when I was reading comics, and like I bet on the wrong horse, and I wanted to be like a Todd McFarlane with like a real weird, like distorted, super rendered style, and that did not take off.
That was a hard one to mimic.
Yeah. But that's where most of my style comes from, is trying to copy him. Like that's where most of my inking style comes from.
Okay, I can see it. Yeah.
And then colors is all the early image stuff.
Oh yeah. When they buy, I know they bought. Did they buy Liquid?
I don't know. Maybe.
You know what I'm talking about, Liquid?
Yeah, I remember Liquid. Mine was specifically Brian Haberlin on Spawn.
Okay.
Like those colors were so good. He was like the first guy who like painted instead of everything being like super saturated and like bumped up to 11. It was like it was a little moodier. There were like lots of like it was darker with like kind of pops of color. Like it was moody for Spawn, and I just latched onto it. I'm gonna recolor this chest piece like 14 times.
What are you trying to do with it?
I'm just trying to get like a background texture before I do details on top of it.
Is it like latex or something?
I don't know. I'm deciding as I go.
Okay.
That's half the problem. It's like I know how I want the cloth to look. I don't know how I want his, like, it needs to be flatter, I think, but it needs to be flatter. Sometimes it's fun to just play around. Sometimes it's fun to just
like a matte vinyl, maybe. I never got the G.I. Joes growing up. I just missed that book.
Oh man, see, I'm like total American kid. I was into G.I. Joe and Transformers, and yeah, that was the two big ones. Like I remember kind of liking Voltron. I like the toys more than the show. But yeah, I had like a. It's weird because my life was sheltered just because of where I live, and so like I could only get so weird with the stuff I could find in life.
Oh yeah. You didn't have random Asian markets to dig through Wall Street.
Dude, I didn't even have Asian friends. Like everybody in my seriously, like this is no joke, and I don't mean this in any bad way, but like 85% of my school was black or was white. Like 10% was Hispanic, and then there was like literally one black person like in my grade. Like it was super not diverse.
Yeah, same here. Growing up, it was all pretty.
Like, were you the only Asian kid?
No, we were the first generation of the middle part of the first generation. There was a couple of kids who were older than us, who were a mix of being born here or being brought over here as like little kids. But me and all the kids in my age, I believe, are first generation Americans.
Oh,
so
wow.
we're like the first batch to come over. Like our parents came over, then they had us.
The first fully integrated.
Yeah, that was a whole gang of us. Mostly white kids, a handful of black kids, a handful, like a good number of like Mexican kids, Filipino, Indian. Well, mine was a little weird because I went to a private school. So
yeah, you did.
Everybody wasn't like in the neighborhood. They were all over the DFW area. Like I went to school in East Dallas, and these kids were up in high school, and these kids were coming in from like Plano.
It's got to give you an interesting perspective, though.
It's everybody. Like my stepson, his like, oh, your classmates are just down the road from you. They're across the street because he goes to the neighborhood public school.
Yeah, that's how mine was. Like, you know, I literally graduated with most of the people that were in my kindergarten class.
Oh, right on. Oh, actually, same here.
There were only 100 of us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think my graduating class had 99 people. So it was, yeah, dude, it was small. It was super small. Like they thought I was weird because I was into like comic books and rock music.
Oh, rock music?
Yeah.
Oh,
like Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
Like metal. It's like, oh, you're a devil worshiper. It's like, oh,
Like off topic.
yeah.
Oh, that's funny. And you were in Princeton, right?
Yes. Go Princeton, Texas.
I was over in like East Dallas, Mesquite.
Okay, you're over where I'm at now. Oh yeah, because
We went to that Keller's. I was like, this is where I went in high school. Like last time I was there, I was in high school. Like that's the church I used to Chinese lion dance at. That's we go down the street and run to my mom's house.
that's so weird, dude.
Essentially. Yeah, that place was strange because it's like I always told people I'm in Dallas, but if I go down this road, I'm in Mesquite. If I go down this road, I'm in Richardson, and then over here is Parkland. Like I was at the very edge of the city.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Sorry, I didn't do my flats correctly.
Oh no.
I missed the spot.
Oh no.
Yeah.
How you lasso tool?
When I do quick stuff, I do like
Okay.
it's like a punch in basically.
I just use the pencil tool.
Yeah, here's what my flats actually look like. I usually do them with I do them with a pencil tool or like the hard edge selection tool.
Yeah, I pencil tool and I just hit the fill button. I pencil tool and I just hit the fill button.
I like my color scheme so far. I just got to get all the rendering down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we got to get you a screen share on here too. So we got to get you a screen share.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Do you have just one webcam or two?
Just one.
Oh, but you like need USB ports, right?
Yeah. I have some. Firewall? I forget what they're called.
Yeah, Firewire.
Yeah, I got some Firewire. Is an inherited machine.
What is it again?
It's a G4 tower.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's the big one.
I got a Mac Pro mid 2010. With an ATI Radeon.
Oh yeah,
It's not. It's the big metal one. Actually, it's the big metal.
Yeah, I found it too. Hey, $500 refurbished.
Yeah, I found it too.
It's not bad.
Hey,
It was,
$500 refurbished.
it was just sitting in my old workplace's closet. Like collecting dust.
Oh wow. Yeah, gimme.
I was like,
Yeah, gimme.
can I use that to work from home? Like, yeah, cool. Then that was it. That was it.
You need one of these bad boys.
Send me something.
Yeah, I just got it on screen.
Oh yeah,
I just got it
yeah.
on screen.
Yeah.
It's funny because I one of the reasons I like to work on PCs is because they just naturally come with more USB ports. But I've already had to add an extra like PCI USB interface on the back of mine.
Oh wow.
Because I've got a mic, I've got a mic and 2 webcams. I've got the Cintiq, it has a USB. My monitor has a USB. I've got like a hard drive and then a backup hard drive, like externals.
How much longer before we get rid of all the ports? Never?
No, wireless isn't reliable enough. Not yet.
Never?
Okay. I don't think so. Not yet.
I think they'll get there sooner than we think.
I mean, if they can do it reliably, yeah, I'm all for it. Deep
into the tinfoil hat stuff, I have a feeling they're feeding out technology quicker because we need to get to civilization more advanced quicker.
Yeah, we're running behind.
But unfortunately, our culture can't keep up with the tech, so we're having problems. So they're just gonna nosedive for space age as fast as they can, and hopefully we can survive to get there.
I'm here for it.
Honestly, it's because have you ever played Civ?
It's been a while.
So recently, I just been diving towards certain skill sets and just ignoring everything else. It's like I'm gonna go straight to submarines. And all the other technology trees, F it, right straight to submarines. That way I can just take out all my enemies because they're still in like sailboats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got sub, so let's do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're doing for space travels. Like we're just gonna nosedive straight into it, and then hopefully we get there soon enough.
We fucking need to. I don't know. I've come to a weird like. I've been reading like some older like hard sci-fi books lately that I didn't read. And the most recent one is an Arthur C. Clarke book called Rendezvous with Rama.
Okay, I don't think I heard that one.
And it's long story short, an asteroid takes out Paris. Because of that, we set up this like super advanced asteroid tracking system, so we never get hit again. And then we discover this giant tube coming into the solar system. And as it's coming into the solar system, it's slowing down. And it's set in the future, so we've got spaceships. They send a ship to check it out, and it turns out to be like an Earth ship, which is like a ring world. So it spins, it's got gravity, and like up is always pointed to the middle of the cylinder.
like up is always
And just like reading that, I was like, there's no way you can ever make this for real.
There's no way you can
Like I can't even imagine. Like even with like the shit I can imagine, I can't imagine.
Even with like the shit I can
Oh,
imagine, I can't imagine. Even with
Like just the scale of it and like what you would need to do it, and like you'd have to build it in space. Like you couldn't build it on a planet and then put it in space.
build it on a planet.
So, hey, what's up, Jeremy? Pinstash is in the chat.
Hey, what's up, Jeremy?
Oh, we got a weird echo.
Hey, what's up, Jeremy?
Might be because I'm using my built-in mic in my.
Might because I'm using my
Hold on, let me see.
built-in mic in my.
Take my mic off. Is anything echoing?
Hold on, let me see.
Is anything live?
No, it sounds. There's a little bit of like a echo.
Yeah. Who knows?
Could be room.
Yeah, it could be my air conditioner because it's fucking hot.
Yeah, it could be my air
Yeah,
conditioner.
this weather's been so weird.
Oh, he said it might be my headphone loop. That's true. You might be hearing it play back in my.
That's true. You might
headphones.
be hearing it
Yeah.
play back in my.
This is right there.
Yeah, like I said, I'll have to listen to it afterwards and probably troubleshoot.
Like I said, I'll have to listen to it afterwards.
Thanks, Jeremy. I need to know these things.
Thanks, Jeremy. I need to know these things.
I showed off our Mando pins earlier. I still got them open.
I showed off our
Yeah, it's
Mando pins
dope.
earlier.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Get your light side on.
I heard that this TV show was kind of supposed to be a quick filler. Have you heard that at all?
I've watched the whole thing and I liked it, but I could see that like it's very light on plot.
My theory of why people love it is because it's filler. There were less executives in the room.
I think so. Well, and it plays like an old western.
And you can only, I feel in this time age, you can only let that stuff simmer if there's less people in the room telling you to move quicker.
Yeah.
Because every time the CEO steps into that project,
Yeah, and I think they trust Favreau enough that they just let him.
Yeah.
They're just like, you just make it awesome, bro.
Just let them do. Just let them work. Don't get marketing out of the way. I don't care about your toy deal. I don't care about your McDonald's tie-in. Just let me work.
Let artists make things.
When I get to like 80%, then we can start like talking about things. I'll aim for a certain thing, but man, sometimes it just doesn't. The story doesn't let the simmer long enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that.
It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that.
It's like, you know what I mean?
How are you doing, Jeremy? What's going on? I think you're the only person in the chat.
What's going on?
He's in the bin life.
He is.
What's going on?
He's in the bin life.
He is.
On the hustle.
I'm glad he wasn't in here listening when I was like sucking his dick earlier. About working with him.
About working with him.
Gotta find good people to work with. How it is these days.
Yeah, you do.
Gotta find good people to work with. How it is these days.
Yeah, I said you're a good art director.
Yeah,
Even if you're a little too much like me for my own taste.
Even if you're a little too much like me for my own taste. Even if you're a little too much like me for my
We just both know what we like.
We just both know what we like.
Have you ever been to the Addies?
No,
Have you ever been
I
to the
haven't.
Addies? They're interesting.
No.
And I love looking at projects and it's like, why is there like 8 creative directors on this thing?
Yeah.
And like 5 art directors?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I can tell you why.
Jesus.
Or at least at the places I worked at, like,
Is it
Well,
just the ego?
well, no, okay, so like,
Just the ego?
there's a corporate structure to like every ad agency, and it's usually like you'll be the designer. Say you're junior designer. Well, you'll have an art director. Or you might have a designer that you're working with.
Yeah.
Then you'll have an art director above you, and then you'll have like a senior art director, and like their purview gets broader as it goes. So like you're on a project, and your art director is probably on 3 projects, and then your senior art director is looking at every project, and then you have like an ECD who's looking at every project, and he's also in like the budget and finance and marketing meetings. And when something that you worked on gets an Addy, everyone up the chain gets credit.
Yeah, but there should only be one, right? But why there's 5 of them?
I don't-
Like 4 of them. Because everyone wants to dig into that, like, it's so pretentious.
When I worked, it was weird when I worked at Bottle Rocket.
When I worked at Bottle Rocket.
The lowest number of art directors you'd have on a project was 2.
The lowest number of
Like at least
Wow.
2.
project
Yeah.
was 2. The lowest number of
And sometimes it made sense, like Like there were some projects where it's like one art director is iPhone and the other art director is Android. Like that kind of makes sense. And then you're expected to huddle up between the two and do the best for your platform. And then sometimes you just have an art director that just like wanted the cool project and got put on it because they play favorites.
I've been in rooms with agencies, and almost every time you look over, it's like, why are you here? Almost every time. Like, what do you contribute?
What do you actually do?
Like, what do you? Yeah. What do you actually do? But yeah. Did you contribute anything to the deck that we've been presenting? Do you know what the deck is about?
Man, I'm gonna badmouth somebody real quick because I don't care. I worked at a company. I worked at a company in Frisco. Their head office was in Arkansas. They're named after a seafood restaurant. If you want to look them up. But I had worked in the Dallas office by myself forever. And they slowly ramped up, and they slowly started putting people above me, which I knew was coming. I knew that was going to happen. And then they hired an ECD that used to work at like IMC Squared and all the other big agencies in town.
Okay.
And he came in with a big swagger, which is what they paid for, to be frank. But I lost all respect for him when he started. Like, not only did he walk all over everyone under him, but like he made us compile his PDFs for him. Because like he was an old broadcast guy and couldn't do it. Like he could present the hell out of a pitch.
Okay.
Like he could win a pitch, but he couldn't make a PDF. And I'm like, how are you an ECD?
They just don't do it. I remember running to art directors who didn't know the software at all. One of my art directors broke the folios. Like they made a 3-page spread. I was so confused. And all 3 pages was on the left side. I was like, how did you do this? Especially when the things are locked. Like, how do things move between locked layers and they're locked again? What happened here?
That's like
so confused.
It's like the instant mark of someone who doesn't know what they're doing.
But here's the funny part. This art director showed up at the gas pipe at some point, and they had the gigantic caricature around their neck. It's like, oh, this explains why you're space cadet all the time at work.
To be fair, that was me a lot of the times.
Oh, it's funny. To be fair, this person was a complete space cadet. I think at the same time they were a photography art director, and they made him like a layout art director, and it was struggle city.
Yeah, there's a huge difference. Like I've learned that like I'm not a good branding guy. Like I can make logos, but I'm not good at it. Like I'm not as good as I feel like someone else should probably make logos unless you want a specific style that I do. But like I'm great at like marketing collateral. So if you have a logo and you need all this shit made, that I can do. Like it'll all be on brand, it'll all look great, it'll all match. But like the logo is hard for me.
Really conceptualized?
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Because I don't think in terms of brand marks anymore. Like I think more in like illustration and like packages and like suites of stuff that all goes together.
Yeah, we were formally trained in branding. That was like the drive of the program that we went through.
See, that's cool.
It was like, here's a client. Let's make a logo. And they were rough. Like, all right, so in 2 weeks you need to come back with at least 200 thumbnails.
Yep.
Okay. He's like, that first 100 thumbnails gonna suck. And then the next 100 thumbnail will be okay. And once you get like that sleep deprived 300, 400 thumbnail, that's when you start getting the real magic.
That's funny. I could see that being true though. I think I did better branding when it was like two or three of us, and we all had our own path to go down instead of trying to go down a bunch of paths on your own.
They encouraged us to brainstorm together.
Yeah, I find that helpful.
And I grabbed people outside of my design program. I grabbed like a English major, I grabbed like a music major, and I did certain exercises with them to find words. Like they went in deep. It was like, all right, let's make a list of words, let's make a list of adjectives, list of animals, list of like gods that relate, and then what iconography comes out of those things, and let's start mushing them together. It's like really abstract branding kind of exercise.
I love working with people who aren't artists or designers.
artists or designers.
Because they're
It's fun.
yeah, they're sometimes like more open
Yeah,
than people who
sometimes,
are.
like more open.
Yeah, sometimes some people their art self gets in the way.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just and the ego gets in the way sometimes. It's like
Because I know I'm guilty of that, where it's like I'll let my preconceived idea about it like stop me from exploring other things.
Stop me from exploring other things.
I let other people do their thing. Like I'm working on a comic with Kenneth, and there are certain ideas he comes up with, and I'm like, yeah, go with it. If you feel comfortable, go with it. My story is super flexible.
Nice.
I have a certain draw. Like there's, if you hit these beats, I don't really care.
Yeah, you're like, just get us to these points, and everything else, like how you get there isn't
Just get
important.
us to these points and
Yeah,
everything
like
else.
even the
Like, how
title
you
of the
get there
book
is
is
important.
like, because I was like, I don't know. It's just the title.
What's the title?
It's gonna be either I think it's Hit King or King Hit. It's a
I
slang
like-
for. It's slang for a sucker punch, I think, or a knockout punch. It's slang for a.
Oh, okay. I like Hit King.
Yeah,
That one
it's
flows.
A,
I like Hit King.
it's a.
That one flows.
It's essentially Double Dragon.
Nice.
Someone gets kidnapped, and it's the guy fighting through to the mansion to save this person.
Oh, cool.
So he's gonna run into like the driver and Kenneth through like a Mario stage, where there's certain bad guys on the screen where you're not gonna run into at all. And so it's like the first issue is the driver, and if we get to the second issue, that'll be like the cook, and then the last one's like the personal bodyguard and that kind of stuff.
That sounds fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
and
just
That sounds.
There's a lot of room in there too for like letting him do cool shit.
There's a lot of room in there too.
I was like,
Yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah.
and for him, it's cool. He's like, look, my comic is usually these very, these just these rectangles. And so for this, because it's not his baby, he's like, I'm gonna try some weird shit. Like, go ahead. It's a good place to practice.
Yeah.
Something that's not you're not super attached to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I think I picked up inking pretty quick, because I found that old. Do you remember the Inkers vault from back in the day?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and I printed out a bunch of stuff. I used to practice on Romita, Potasio, I think I'm gonna pronounce your name. What's his name? Baccello, Scott, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that one. I think it's I've heard Portasio because I've heard him say it.
Okay, that was fun.
I've heard him
say it.
Yeah, he was one of my favorites back in the day.
I can see that.
Yeah, I know. I like it. I like it. Like if you ever look at my stuff, especially like my less finished stuff, I call them Portasio hands. This, it's where like your middle fingers are connected. All your hands look like this. Yeah, it's easy to like make those plain, so I picked it up real quick. And I noticed that he would always draw hands like that, and then he liked to sneak in extra pinky. So you'd have 6 fingers. Dude, there's more than one Uncanny X-Men cover where someone's got a fist and they've got 5 fingers. Yeah.
His name. Yeah, I remember inking like other people's stuff.
I think it's. I've heard Portasio.
That's cool.
I've heard.
How's your thing going tonight?
Oh, not bad. I got something down.
Got something.
Yeah, it's.
Got something. I like it.
I like my sketch, and I don't know how to translate my sketch into an ink.
Oh, I gotcha.
So I gotta go back because my sketch is kind of painted. So like I know how to accomplish that with the paintbrush, but when I try to translate that into an ink drawing, it gets a little weird. So
maybe try like the Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein superfine crosshatching.
Yeah, I need to look at more nature illustration, to be quite honest.
Okay.
For certain things, because my landscaping is very painterly, because that's where I've learned, and I never really studied it as an illustrator.
Gotcha.
Like, how do I draw a tree? Because some of my trees are very, because I recognize them. They're very Calvin and Hobbes.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Like how he draws certain trees, I remember how to do it. If I dive into it more, it probably helps me figure out these problems that I run into now.
Cool. You're it.
Well, I gotta dip out.
12:20, bro. Kept you late. Sorry.
It's all good.
Not bad.
So I'm just gonna We'll see you later, dude. Take
Yeah,
care.
man. Take it easy. Sleep
See you
well.
again.
Have a good day at work tomorrow.
Yeah, man. Take it
Peace.
easy. Have a good day at work tomorrow.
And Lun's out.
Right now.
All right.
Okay.
Let's switch back to this guy. What's up, everybody? Oh, where's my Slim at? Let's see Slim. This is just for you. This is just for you. This is just for you. Oh yeah. This is just for you. See y'all next time, kitties. This is just for you. See y'all next time, kitties.